Whatever you need, water, whatever. Whatever you need to get up. Whatever it is, whatever your vice. Wake your goat mouth ass up. Brush your teeth though. And be prepared for 2 hours worth of question everything. Shouts out to Dread. Question everything. Everything. Question everything. I was trying to question everything, but you know, I'm questioning every goddamn thing, man. There was somebody here before us. Shouts out to question everything. Question everything. Even question your parents. Let me let the rest of this play. Thank y'all. So I wake up unafraid. I heard that. Shouts out to you. The first toker, J Mai. That's what I'm talking about. Let's get it. I'll be back. Yeah, great morning. I'm gonna stop saying morning. Great top of the day to you, whatever. How y'all doing? This is the indigenous Coppertone content creator. I'm glad you saying just getting off the clock time. Hey, I heard that. Started a little bit early. Shouts out to question everything. Dreads. You got me on this flat power. I mean this flat earth shit now. But mine coming through the other entrance. See, I always knew that the ologies, all these technologies, especially the technologies. I know that our ancestors was powerful people and all that, but I was questioning like who put them up on the technology. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of shit out there that is unquestioned, but I mean that needs answers and all that. But shouts out to question everything. And he was on Vegans Build stream last night, and I seen this on his channel, but I went and pulled the video. Let me go to my history. So let me get the name of it because I'm watching it as you speak, but and just let it run for like 2 hours and not even talk much. The lost history of flat Earth. It's amazing, man. I say, man, it's fucking amazing how certain things was right in front of our face, and we've been so indoctrinated that we don't even ask certain questions and shit. But I've been stating this like, if all of this advanced technology like the pyramids and all this shit, wouldn't it take heavy equipment to move all this shit around and shit? Where are the end dumps, huh? Where are the dump trucks just to haul this dirt back and forth? So if we didn't do it, somebody else did it, and I heard that, you know what I'm saying, but it's out there, but some others did it with powers that's not used to nothing on this plane, because it's carved out like apartment style structures in mountains, in the Caucasus Mountain, I mean, in all type of areas of mountains around this plane. But I didn't want to seem too crazy about, man, there's others, the technology is God, and the game is to be sold, not told type shit. And you know what I'm saying? But somebody put people up on this a much game like that. But shouts out to question everything. I mean, shit, you got me not afraid to question everything now. Flat, round, either way we go, what's the real point? The remedy would have either way. I know, but see, I was questioning that too, but it keeps you sharp. Trust me, I'm gonna play this. This broke down probably in 6 episodes or whatever, but it's 6 hours long. But that, of course, I ain't gonna play the whole 6 hours, but it's just, it was other things here. Like it was buildings that was built before any of, there was canals, anything that was built in the 1800s. Where is the end dumps to move the wet material from digging out of any canals or anything like that? I work in construction, so I would know just a little bit about, you know what I'm saying? But I'm fixing to play this now. Before I do, I'm gonna give these you know what I'm saying, I gotta protect myself, and I found a pretty fashionable way. Listen to the fair use, and then the introduction. I'm gonna find, this is woke Wednesdays. So woke, wise, obtain knowledge every day. I have to get my little trailer or my little promo, but this will do, and I'll have something for Wednesday and Friday. Fridays is Freestyle Friday, so hopefully I could make a little promo introduction or whatever. But until then, just rock out with what I got. I will be right back. Thank y'all. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for being part of this. Waking and Baking with Coppertone. You say, what's up with the FDMG or the FMP, FMFP schools? I don't understand. I don't know about that. It's important. Diff. It's important to be different. That's right. It's important, different to be spinning or not. Don't you think? You know what? The magnet and all of the extra scientific. I'm going to try to ease my way into it, but certain things that's common sense, that's what I'm trying to approach it at first. But I didn't know or understand. I'm like, man, round earth, flat earth. But then as I start just on the search of whatever I'm trying to search knowledge, you know what I'm saying? More that it's like it's mental, it's exercise, it's mental exercise for your mind. When you start watching this, you're gonna be like, damn, you know what? It's just common sense, but we so used to just being tourists at it. I'm gonna get to it, but it's just woolly hair. Thank you. Hey, hey, if you can see mine, I say it's just nigga woolly hair. But hey, I'm glad to have this hair, man. At least this hair, it grows toward the sun. Our hair is similar to just like plants. It grows toward the sun, man. So shouts out for our woolly hair. Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey, flat mother feeling power. Hey, you know what, man? The more I realize that we supposed to be so woke and conscious that we can't let nothing slip up under the rug now, but I'm gonna stop. And I really didn't get into a habit of it of extra like going out the way and shunning our elders in the past because some of us are relatives to Marcus Garvey and Frederick Douglass. Hell, my dad kind of favor that picture that they give us as Frederick Douglass. Hell, my father favor him kind of. So thank y'all five for man. It was a while back where I came so far, and I thank y'all. This what I got going on. I don't take it for granted because it's a momentum thing. It's an energy thing. So I know at any given time things could change, but I try to be a good and gracious host at all times. So I thank y'all for being a part of this, and I'm not gonna keep y'all waiting. Um, I'm fishing to share it now, and I look forward to this. This is my third week on doing this, and I have been consistent. I have been late one time, but I'm trying, y'all. I'm a content creator. I'm passionate, man. Don't judge me. Hey, thank y'all. I hope y'all enjoy this. I'm at least let it run, let it run for at least maybe stop like an hour in, but I want y'all to see it. So I thank y'all, and fair use, fair use, fair use. I am not making anything from this. This is for educational purposes only. Thank y'all. Let's get it.
Once you are awake, it is almost impossible to fall back to sleep again. Once you discover that the Earth is not a spinning globe, but a flat and stationary plane with a firmament above it, everything changes. The trusted voices and satanic scientific priests who once shaped our reality and understanding of the world are no longer reliable. Our first-hand experience of the Earth as a stationary realm is at odds with their fabricated narrative of space and spinning planets. The scarring of our land and the barbaric mining of Earth's once majestic giant trees is at odds with the history books and geological narrative. And the awake are left wondering, what on earth happened? If they've lied about the Earth, space, and the destruction of our flat realm, then how can we trust the official mainstream historical narrative? The historical narrative, like the heliocentric model, does not make sense. It doesn't add up. And all it takes is a closer examination, and their lies, which have governed our understanding of history and the world since our birth, begin to fall apart. Let's stir the mind with a few contemplations. We are told that the first true power tool was invented in 1895, when a German company combined an electric motor with a manual drill. The drill weighed 16.5 pounds and required multiple operators. It wasn't until 1957 that a company called Bosch began designing power tools in bulk that were both economical and powerful. So then how did our historical ancestors, a more primitive, underdeveloped people, design and build some of the structures we encounter? What about all the gigantic monolithic stones we encounter that have been cut with such precision? Ask yourself, could you repeat this today with the arsenal of equipment we have at our disposal? And what about the magnificent ancient stepwells of the East? Stepwells, we are told, were multi-storied wells built by our primitive ancestors as ways to preserve the water supply during droughts. But look at the intricacy and complexity of these structures. Look at the glory and the finesse. Look at the geometric precision. All dug out and crafted from using hand tools. Yeah, right. What about the gigantic canal networks we find all over the world? The Erie Canal in America was allegedly built between 1817 and 1825. There were no civil engineers in America at this time. The people responsible for planning construction were novices, we are told. The canal is 12 meters wide and 4 meters deep. The Erie Canal spans 363 miles. But this was not just a case of digging each day for the Irish immigrants and their oxen companions. They had to fell hundreds of trees as they passed through the virgin forest. They had to build complicated aqueducts and locks, and they had to pass through the Niagara Escarpment, an 80-foot high wall of hard limestone. They had to use black powder to blast through this, we are told, as dynamite had yet to be invented. The canal spans 363 miles and was constructed over an 8-year period. This means that on average, 1 mile was completed every 8 days. What a record, especially since those responsible were novices, and power tools and dynamite were yet to be invented. I can tell you now, The so-called early settlers of the Americas did not build these canal systems. And what of the grand and magnificent castles scattered across our realm? Did you know that most were designed and constructed without plumbing systems and methods to heat rooms properly? The royal and the elite of the past were content without having the accessible necessities of survival, just as long as they could live within the grand and the glorious.
Be safe.
While the peasants, in their modest abodes, enjoyed warmth throughout the long dark winters? I don't think so. And of course, there is the impossibility of the Great Giza Pyramid Complex. The pyramids, we are told, were constructed somewhere around 2500 BC. The Great Pyramid itself consists of 2.3 million blocks of limestone and granite, and its overall structure weighs 6 million tons. The largest granite stones weigh between 20 and 80 tons each. 20 tons is 20,000 kilograms. These blocks were carved from quarries with copper chisels and allegedly transported from 800 kilometers away. The so-called experts can only theorize that a vast amount of slave labor was required. Being gullible and falling for the official narrative of slave labor is one thing, but can someone please explain how the air shafts of the Great Pyramid align so neatly with the circumpolar stars? And then there is the curious case of star forts, or what the official liars of the world call bastion forts. Developed in the late 15th and early 16th century, these forts, we are told, were designed during an era of gunpowder and the cannon. The geometric design offered a nation's military protection against blind spots during conflict. Of course they did. We all know that the best protection during war is to design a fort with such precise geometric patterning. Has any real historian ever stopped to think just how perfect the geometry is here? Our primitive ancestors did not have the technology to view structures from above, but they still managed to achieve this? Give me strength. There is no way. We could not produce such perfect geometry on this scale today. We've been fooled once again. We have been in...
Hey, I ain't gonna wrap y'all off, but did you see the last one? Just on the dirt work, just on the groundwork alone, you need bulldozers to cut into the dirt like that. I done work around backhoes. Backhoes is what dig into the dirt. A front end loader, the bucket that scoops dirt. You know, off-road, what they call haul trucks. You know, the dump trucks, the yellow ones with the big ass tires. And what I use, I done operated all of them except the grader. The grader is the 6-wheeled heavy equipment machine with the blade in the middle that blade could turn all. Man, I done seen a grader operator had the whole blade up, like that blade could turn all which way and all, but you need that type of stuff, cranes and all that to build stuff like this right now. And I operated the roller is a compactor that compacts the dirt. Just alone on all of these structures that was built, you need a density. Once you start digging into the dirt, you need it to be compacted back, right? So who tested the foundations for all these castles and all these superstructures? Who put these people up on game, or was it E.T. in them? I get it. But something's up and somebody knows something, but they don't need you to be worrying about this. They need for you to work. That's it. Only work. And then we're going to work you this week, and then you're going to wait a whole week in the hole to get paid. So you further dependent on us. The fuck out of here, man. Let's get it. Those 8. Thank y'all. Great morning.
Indoctrinated with a false historical narrative.
Great start of the day.
And timeline.
Be safe out there.
And like the silly heliocentric model, all it takes is a closer look at this narrative and things soon start to fall apart and the lies become so blatantly evident. Because of their satanic lies, piecing together an accurate, honest historical timeline has become an impossible Rubik's Cube. The official narrative, a Pandora's box, only offering us tiny clues, half-truths, and deceptions. The stitchings of our true historical timeline have been loosened. The contents erased and muddled before we were even born into this world. And herein lies the problem. How to know where you are going if you don't know where you are in the first place? But you see, awakening is truly a gift. Once awake, we learn that we've always had the answers right in front of us. We've always had more than we know. But we had to regain our sight first before things started falling into place, before things started to make a little more sense. And here we are again, viewer, at the precipice of another great journey. What if I told you that before us there existed a civilization that was responsible for the most advanced technology ever developed, and that it was their understanding of the workings of our flat realm that was key to their innovation? And what if I told you that it is highly likely that our true history as a people only begun just over 200 years ago? Would you think of me as mad once again? Do I sound as preposterous as when I first told you that the earth is flat? Perhaps. And that's why I need to show you. What I hope to show you is one of the greatest cover-ups of all time. It is on par with the heliocentric lie in its enormity and the impact it has upon humanity. And, as I will try to show you, it is inextricable from the true nature of our flat realm Earth, and you cannot understand one without understanding the other. We cannot waste time, for we must journey in search of lost time. At its heart, this is a story about deception. It is also a story of endings and beginnings, of death and rebirth. And please bear with me. Due to the deceptions and falsities underpinning our historical narrative, this story cannot be told in a linear fashion. We need to go back and forth in time to really draw out something that brings us a little closer to the truth. It is also imperative to understand that, like much contemporary science, history as a discipline was corrupted a long time ago. At its most innocent, a lot of established historical narrative is guesswork. But at its worst, it is a set of lies agreed upon, as the so-called Napoleon put it so succinctly. We are going to be digging in the dark, No historian will be there to help us. We are alone in this journey. Our journey is a hunt for things buried in plain sight. And things may become a little uncomfortable at times, but it is necessary. We have been living a comfortable lie for far too long now. Come on, jump in and put your seatbelt on. For to understand our place in the world, we need to do the unthinkable. It's time for us to take a journey back to the future. Our journey begins in the unlikeliest of places. 19th century St. Petersburg. At the entrance to St. Isaac's Cathedral. The city cold, the early morning mists dissipating with the approach of the sun, and our boots caked in mud. The year is 1860, and while St. Petersburg stands regal and proud, its inhabitants are nowhere to be found. It is quiet, too quiet. The population of St. Petersburg in the 1860s was, we are told, roughly 500,000 people, and yet there is not a soul in sight. Where is everybody? The long shadow of Alexander Column gives us a clue as to the time of the sun's journey above this region. Long shadows only occur during morning or evening. It must be morning, but it appears that no one has surfaced yet. If we travel 400 miles across to Moscow, we see the same thing. Empty, quiet streets. In 1860, Moscow shared a similar population with St. Petersburg, roughly 500,000 citizens. But again, where is everybody? What about the rest of the world during this time period? Edinburgh, Scotland, 1840s. Copenhagen, Denmark, 1840s. Dresden, Germany, 1860s. Rio in Brazil, 1860s. Toronto, Canada, 1860s. Athens in Greece, 1860s. And then London, finally, people. And what about Paris? People, life. The first photograph, we are told, was created in 1822. The art of photography relies on methods of juxtaposition, of comparison and contrast. to deliver its message and sentiment. In these old photographs, we do not find the same deliberate techniques of juxtaposition that contemporary photographers craft into their art, but rather we find natural contrasts that are so important and central to navigating through our deceptive history. Contrast is a phenomenon, natural or artificial, in which meaning is generated and conveyed through the comparison of two opposing elements. When looking at 1860s Russia, there is an immediate contrast between the lack of population and the sheer size of these cities. Even in the 19th century, both Moscow and St. Petersburg are enormous. The infrastructure found in the photographs could hold a population well into the millions. Why are the cities so vast if the population was only 500,000 in each? Furthermore, the official narrative gives us a population that increases in a linear fashion from 1764. Many of the buildings we see here were built years before the photograph was taken. Did the Russians just plan well in advance? But it's when the population is introduced into these photographs that a new contrast emerges that is staggering. That is, between the people and the environment itself. It may be the reduced population numbers, or it may be the monochromatic starkness of the black and white images, but they present to us something that we've lived amongst our entire lives and never paid any mind to. That is, the enormity and impossibility of the architecture. As we engage with the industry and act of tourism, we journey from place to place and observe, taking it all in, learning, hearing, and being told what we are looking at and how it came to be. And standing in front of a structure like the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, we might even exclaim, "Wow, how did they do this?" But the moment, inextricably wrapped up in the busyness of the scene, perhaps prevents us from really asking that question with sincerity. Standing in front of a structure like the Arc de Triomphe while the crowd frantically takes pictures on their smartphones makes it all a reality. And we conclude, before being shoved away by new tourists, well, they had to have done it somehow because I'm here and looking at it. During our indoctrination at school, we are seldom shown old photographs of the grand cities scattered around our flat realm. And perhaps for good reason. Because when we marinate on images like this and are presented with the visual evidence of a very primitive Victorian people dotted around like grasshoppers within the shadows of the most magnificent, grandiose, brilliant architecture a human could ever imagine, we begin to have doubts. Indeed, how did they build this? The Arc de Triomphe is made from 36,695 cubic meters of limestone and weighs 95,407 tons, or just over 95 million kilograms. They tell us it took 12 years to build the giant arch in two different periods, between 1806 to 1814 and between 1832 to 1836. How did they transport this amount of limestone with the same horse and carts that we see in the photographs? Look closer at the 4 sculptures that adorn each of its sides. Look at the intricacy of the sculptures and the patterning of the ornamentation that frames the arch. Each section is perfectly repeated without any.
That is kind of what they were saying about the bulk of the hand power tools to do this type of thing. This is finesse at its finest, and they're saying that how everything is in unison, that it was something different. I was saying that back then, the technology, so I heard somewhere that, but this is higher learning, that this was possible, but through telepathic abilities, but either that or something higher, a higher intelligence. I'll get back to it, but just something to make you say, So there would have to be a junkyard, a scrap yard of older cranes and all that. Where is it? Just as the slave boat theories and all that. Where is all of this heavy equipment? I'm asking because I work in construction. I am a heavy equipment operator. The forklifts. I know how to operate a forklift. Where the forklifts? Hey, I understand. I get it. And while I'm here, let me go on and do this real quick to cover my ass. What's up, Ricky Young? Hey, you were seeing what I did for you. Thank y'all, man. I'm gonna get back to it.
Deviation or inconsistency. The first true power tool was not invented until 60 years after this arch was completed. They tell us this was crafted by hand. Is that even possible? And then there is the ceiling of the arch. Immaculate, 3D sculpted roses, perfect in their geometric symmetry. The nuance of the detail and finesse of each petal and cross-section borders is overwhelming. Look at the rest of Paris during this time. Again, a plethora of unbelievable, gigantic, and magnificent structures. The city's infrastructure glorious, and the people and their means of transport primitive, unsophisticated, and seeming not at all developed to the point of
I know I ain't want to fuck up the vibes, but you saying that, look at all of the, like, on Disney Channel, and they have a lot of these Hannah Montana style, like real life children shows, but they have to do with this wizard magic and stuff. Look at Raven Simone, like her TV show, That's So Raven. All this superpower type shit. It's a bunch. Whatever the reality dealing with right now, that's what's on Netflix and all them shits. Just look. I'll get back to it.
producing a city like this. The roads are improperly paved and uneven. They are dirty and muddy. We also see buildings during this period in which the architecture aligns with the inhabitants. Buildings of misshapen proportions, less developed and refined, charming in their own way, but coarse in their use of wood and plaster. This is exactly the type of architecture we expect of a generation of horse and cart, a generation ignorant to the discoveries in technology that would follow in the years to come. Furthermore, at the time of this photograph, the arch is roughly 40 years old since its completion. Yet can you see how worn some of the parts of the structure are? We see weathering on the stone that suggests the arch is much older. As we approach the late 19th century, we see that the people of Moscow have finally decided to leave their homes and venture out into the streets. The infamous Red Square, now bustling with life. St. Basil's Cathedral and the Spasskaya Tower dominate the frame of the square. The construction of St. Basil's Cathedral began in 1555 and was completed in 1561, a mere 6 years. It suffered a huge fire in 1737 and underwent restoration over a 20-year period. But look at it. What a structure. Almost unreal and like no other. It is composed of thousands of red bricks and tin sheet metal that has been shaped into the distinctive onion domes we see. Look closer at the intricacy of the domes. How did they bend metal to achieve such precision and perfection in the 18th century? And again, if they had the skills and dedication to build a wonder such as this, then why are the conditions of the roads so poor and covered in mud? We see these incredible structures and buildings everywhere in 19th century photography. We have the wondrous Crystal Palace of London, a monstrous structure with the greatest area of glass ever seen in a building, and all constructed before England had automatic glass manufacturing. We have Westminster Abbey and Parliament. We have the old Euston Arch, constructed out of pure sandstone in 1837, and streets unpaved and full of mud. Why did these people not prioritize the streets they walked upon? The Frauenkirche, the domed masterpiece of Dresden, Germany. Its intricate and opulent splendor in direct contrast with the beat-up wagons and horse-pulled carts of the people below, a people dependent on the bare necessities. A people completely dwarfed by its size and majesty. The Library of Parliament in Ottawa, Canada, built over a period of 17 years. The first major settlers arrived in 1800, and at the time of construction, the city's population was under 20,000. Would a grand, glorious library really be a priority for settlers? Why does the building look like it's been cropped out of Europe and pasted into Canada? Even at the turn of the century, 40 years before Bosch economized the power tool, we have the old Penn Station in New York. Look at the size of this. Completely mind-blowing proportions. As we can see here in the photograph, Each octagonal, sculpted pattern on the arched dome ceiling
Shots out, shots out. Good morning, vegan. Giving credit where credit is due. Question everything. Dreads. This shit is right here in our face, and this type of things right here, man. I ain't never been to New York or nothing like that, but there ain't nothing new up under the sun. And like I say, the game is to be sold, not told. But the technology is mind blowing. If you really focus on that, but I get it. It's too hard when everything, all walks of life, all societies are just like, picture you just LeBron James and somebody higher with a higher, their higher calling just tell you just to shut up and work. Basically, all of the distractions when you are off work, that is a mini vacation. And what is you focus? You watching LeBron James. So, and them type. I ain't picking on him, but now it's just shut up and watch the distraction. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. But this type of shit, what they giving the breakdown that it was like all the castles now, for real. That's what I was saying, but I gotta slow it down because I get it. It was my own little university. The time when I wasn't working my ass off. You get it? Who put them up on this technology though, man? Come on, man. Who? Where? The castles, bitch, where the ancient cranes and Shay, who put that together? I shit. I'm gonna say that some higher intelligence that's smarter than me and you probably put up the gods. They ain't gonna look like us. You'll be freaked out by the look, but it's something like that. Or either somebody did have telepathic powers that only way if it is no caterpillars. Where the caterpillars, where the John Deeres, where the Volvos, where the Volvos, where the Case. These are all different makes of heavy equipment. Let me start out with the John Deeres. We know the John Deeres first, and then probably second, the heavy equipment brands you're gonna know is Caterpillar. Where the John Deeres, where the Caterpillars, where the Volvos. It's some more makers of heavy equipment, but where the tool belts? I'm saying the carpentry, where is the cement mixers? But in America, I seen this the other day that through a video, but it's not. It is asphalt that is buried. Yeah, asphalt is a natural material that's in the Americas. That's in. Come on, man. The game is to be sold, not sold. So the higher ups, the ones that's ruling everything, isn't they blood different? Don't they do an excellent job of tracking their blood? The ones that rule the world, if it take them screwing around with the same blood, the grandmother's husband is her third cousin. I get it, but they don't want the slaves the citizens, the prisoners, the descendants of the prisoners of war, they don't want them knowing their bloodlines. I get it. Let me get back to this.
Is larger than one individual human. Look at the gigantic columns and detailed acanthus leaves decorating the tops of each pillar. They tell us this station took 6 years to build.
Just before this scene transition, what about the roundness on the column? The detail. Who put the one column on the left-hand side? You see the column with all of the little round ridges in it? Who did that way back then? Was somebody just placed to be masons, just man-made masons? Who did this? This is one hell of a concrete job, and they said that they done this in 6 years. Just like Dredd say, question everything. Why aren't they making something like this now? They're not this detailed.
6 whole years. Yeah, right. Why are we so gullible? Even without access to modern power tools, printable construction pieces, and crane technology, we could not reproduce this today. And more importantly, we don't reproduce this type of architecture today. The official liars of our world have an umbrella term for this type of architecture that we see in North America. They call it historism. Historism is a term coined to describe a style of architecture that is revival in nature, or in other words, copies the style of another period in time. The grand arches and buildings with giant columns we see are built in the classical or Greco-Roman style, and the cathedrals are built in the Renaissance and Gothic styles of medieval Europe. Components of these particular styles of architecture feature large spires, arched windows, towers, turrets, domes, arcaded arches, sculptures, enormous doors, circular geometric windows, columns, clock faces, and bell towers. Traces of this impossible architecture are literally found everywhere, in every city and across our world today. Some preserved and maintained, like the Parisian Arc de Triomphe and Notre Dame, and others lost and long forgotten to time, like the Euston Arch and the Old Penn Station in New York. We as a people travel miles to take our own photographs of these wonders. But the photographers of the 19th century gift us with something they would never have expected to give a future generation: perspective. We see a primitive people against a backdrop of clearly advanced architectural infrastructure. The official historians of the world tell us tales of Darwinian evolution and progression between time periods. The people that came after were always more advanced in their ways, refining and redefining the methods of the generation that came before. If the height of innovation and industry during the 19th century was still the horse and car as a means of travel, then, as these photographs tell us, this style of architecture was just as impossible for those living in the centuries before it. Anyone with a predisposition for thinking and questioning can immediately sense when looking at these photographs that something is rotten in Denmark, that something is off with the mainstream historical narrative, that something is not adding up. In a panoramic image of San Francisco in 1877, we see a collage of historicist architecture. We see columns adorning the entrances to very regal buildings that stand out like sore thumbs from some of the timber shacks surrounding it. We see Gothic spires and towers in the distance. We see domed cathedrals and buildings. We also see just how sprawling and huge the city has become. In 1846, there were under 500 Mormon settlers living on the area of land in which we now call San Francisco. It was frontier land and ready for the taking. Between 1848 and 1849, with the start of the California gold rush, the population increased from 1,000 people to 25,000 people. 28 years later, this panorama was taken. The population at this time, we are told, was getting close to 200,000. Who in their right mind would believe this story? Does this look like a city of 200,000 people? Without any modern technology, power tools, automatic manufacturing, electric motors. A people in a strange, unfounded land, just making their mark. Do we really believe that a burgeoning people built this entire city in just 30 years? And again, such quietness, such stillness. This is a photograph of an empty city. Where are all the people? The shadow of the post here tells us that it is not the early hours of the morning. Short shadows only appear toward midday. A city of this scale at noon should be bustling with life. But there is not a single person in the shot of this panorama. The only life we see is that of a horse without any master in sight.
You know, now this leaves the disappearance of indigenous tribes from America so much like the Mayans. I get it. I don't know, man. Then who took this? You feel me? This black and white footage, but man, they work us. They work us. I'm talking about, boy, they did an excellent job. Hey, we didn't, this was out of our control, but somebody envisioned and they went all the way. And this is a well-oiled machine of fuckery. Shut up and work. And when you're not working, shut up and be on vacation. Enjoy your vacation. And get right back to work. I get it. I'm gonna get back to this.
It seems highly unlikely that all the people were told to stay indoors because a cityscape photo shoot was taking place. And this silent scene becomes all the more eerie when we consider that there is intention.
Whoa. Hey, anything's possible because didn't just last year, now just last year, didn't God, the government, tell everybody to go in the house? So a lot of us are a little smarter, but this was back then, so possibly it wasn't all this new technology like this, so it was possible because 100 years ago the mask on, mask off shit was, so they could have told, hey, something's coming, stay in the house. Moses coming, Jesus coming, a meteor shower, stay in the house while we come through in a UFO and film this bitch from high up, I guess. I don't know, but somebody tell me it is possible through the fear and the love of God, the government, the shadow government, the Democrats, the Republicans. Your survival will tell you to stay in the house, and your ass will stay in the house and look out the window. So they could not get close up, and maybe this whole lost city was in the house being compliant on their best behavior, and all of the city was looking out the windows on the outside looking in. I'm just saying, man, I get it. Let's get it. Imagine that they, about 200 years ago, brung us from another planet here, and then they hit the Men in Black switch. You here now? We gonna take your memory from you. This is the Men in Black. I don't know, but I don't know, but somebody gotta tell me why. Tell me why you lie. You been lying for. I'm sorry. I'll just shut up and play the damn movie, documentary, whatever. Like, share, subscribe. I shouldn't have to
standing at
tell
a
you
vantage
that.
point and
Come
taking
on.
this photograph. But who and for what? And what are the chances that in the 19th century, during similar decades, we see deserted Russian, European, and North American cities photographed like this? And then only a few years later, we find the same locations bustling with people. A people clearly incapable of building the architecture found in these cities. And what to do with these photographs? If we accept the narrative and these strange anomalies, then we stop here and get back to our busy lives. But the narrative we've received is not the truth. And we shouldn't accept any narrative, no matter how official and certified it is, unless it makes sense. The people we see in these photographs and their early ancestors could not have.
Follow me. How I would know about this process, because I'm in rural Florida, and all of the rural land is going to build these big ass super warehouses. So they could easily, how most of these buildings, these concrete buildings are being made now, is they are precasted. A big ass wall, pieces of wall are shipped in on trucks, and then the cranes kind of put them together there, and then they get the crane and they put them up. So why aren't they doing? They could easily carve into the fucking wall and make all these pretty etched out things like that, but they aren't spending their time doing that. But this is some famous shit. This is Russia and all of the Kremlin and all of that shit. Who did all of that finally things on the just on the top of the roof alone? Huh? But what? Somebody claimed that, we did this, we did that, we did it. Where the tools at? Where your tool belt? Huh? Where the blueprint plans? Where the blueprint plans? Huh? Where the blueprint plans? Who got the blueprint plans? Do E.T. and them have the blueprint plans? Somebody phone Phone home to E.T. and tell E.T. to bring, when he comes back to the planet, the plantation Earth, tell E.T. to bring the blueprint plans, the architectural plans to the Kremlin, or all of the castles, huh? Somebody tell me why the Jews lie. It's damn near the 4th of Jews lie. Because you know that the Jews are over all of the merchants. They mindfuck and put everybody under slavery. Prisoners of war, they were the funders, the merchants. So, with inside of Jew, they gonna mind fuck you and think that it's just that time of Jew, but that's just a label. That could be, you know, it's some Spanish Jews, you know, it's some Christian Jews, you know, it's some Muslim Jews, you know, it's some black Jews, it's just some head Jews in charge. Head Jews in charge, you get it? The Jews lie on 4th of July, but I get it. I hope I ain't fucking up the
Built
church
the
money.
magnificent architecture we see, it is an impossibility. Come on, jump in. We must venture further into these cities and look a little closer. There must be some clues waiting to be uncovered that helps us understand why these cities are empty. Wait, what's that you say? You want to wipe the mud from your boots first? Do not bother. It's a waste of time. Come on, jump in and let's go. For it is the mud that offers us some small clues as to what could have occurred during this time period. In June 2011, Christchurch, New Zealand, suffered an earthquake that left a lot of the city in chaos, destroying buildings and infrastructure and leaving over 50,000 homes without power. As a result, there were collapsed houses, ruptured water mains, flooding, and fires due to disrupted electrical lines. Due to the strong ground motions and intense shaking, part of the city experienced a strange phenomenon known as soil liquefaction. Sand boils emerged from asphalt roads, toppling and sinking cars, and causing boulders to fall from hills, resulting in more home damage. Soil liquefaction occurs when saturated soil loses its strength and stiffness in response to an applied stress, such as shaking, or other sudden changes, such as a strong explosion. Loose, saturated soil or sand has a tendency to compress when a load is applied. But in the event of a stress, such as shaking or an explosion, we see the opposite. The soil tends to dilute, and the result is treacherous quicksand or quick clay. The land turns to liquid, causing structures of heavy mass, such as buildings, infrastructure, and cars to start sinking, topple over, or collapse. It can also affect dams and bridges. Turbidity currents can also form huge landslides that are impossible to stop. In the worst case scenario, Entire cities may be destroyed.
Our top priority continues to be search and rescue and saving any lives that we can.
We're now into day 6 of the urgent search and rescue operation here in Surfside. There are still so many questions about how this could have happened, families desperate for word about their loved ones, and we continue hearing these incredible stories of survival. Officials holding on to hope, insisting that the search for the 150 people missing in the Surfside condo collapse is still a rescue mission, not a recovery. This as the death toll climbed to 11, 3 more victims identified. Overnight, hundreds attending a vigil for the dead and missing on a nearby beach. Now more than 300 rescue crews racing against the clock to try to find those still missing, battling treacherous conditions, crews hopeful that as the building pancaked down, pockets of air or voids could have formed in the rubble, potentially trapping survivors, keeping them alive.
There's certain areas that we have not gotten to, but we've been able to place cameras that seem to have large enough spaces, voids, that occupants may still be in there.
Rescuers finding some of those voids, but unfortunately, nobody inside so far. This as stories of survival come to light from that horrific night. What unit were you in?
705. If I'm in 704, I'm dead.
Steve Rosenthal was asleep in his apartment when the building started collapsing. He remembers his neighbors' cries for help.
People are
As you can see, liquefaction can move entire areas of land. The mud can rise dramatically and rapidly, and its destructive force is unstoppable. It is a well-documented phenomenon. The 1964 earthquake in Nagata, Japan, caused liquefaction, and we can see the effects very clearly in these photos. The same here with the 1964 Alaska earthquake. Buildings toppling, cars sinking, infrastructure collapsing. Once the stress has subsided, the soil begins to solidify once again, and we can see the aftermath. Uneven, muddy streets remain where there was once road paving. Returning to photographs of 19th century cities, we see a similar situation here. The roads are unrefined and full of mud. We see unsophisticated, uneven, coarse, and muddy roads everywhere against a backdrop of refined, sophisticated, and magnificent architecture. Could these cities have suffered the similar fate of soil liquefaction that we see in more recent times? Perhaps. But unfortunately, muddy roads is not enough evidence to base any conclusions on, is it? Children ask the most vital of questions, and adults, in their foggy stupor, usually provide the most unsatisfactory answers, often regurgitating learned nonsensical information that leave the child's imagination unfulfilled. Squelching along these muddy 19th century roads, observing their surroundings, a child may ask,
imagine for any unification Your whole entire soul has to be as a child. Your love has to be childlike. You know, you gained everything, your whole social awareness, all that you gained as a child and growing up into this matrix. Now, you ain't trying to make no new friends, man. I ain't trying to make no new friends and nothing like that and nothing, but your love has to be as a child, your imagination. See, you have a imagination, but as you are in no control of it because shut up and work. Shut up and dribble the damn ball. Just shut up and do what you have been entitled. Your entitlement. You do what's inside of. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Yeah. Everything has to be like a child. Your imagination. That's when they steal the genius from the children. We can't even get mad at our children when they see something that's unnatural, like gender switching shit. And when kids gonna say the darndest things and just question like, what's that man dressed up like a woman for? And then we be mad. Nah, you can't be mad at your child because this wasn't like this when I was a child. Stay in the closet. Stay in the closet. I guess shit had to be segregated. You sit there, segregated. Keep that shit in the closet. The children, man. The children. They'll flag me, but what happened to Whitney song saying about the children with the future, huh? I ain't the best, but we can do it together. You know what I'm saying? We can do this shit together, but come on, man. Everything has to be as a child, so imagine that trust has to be as a child. You can put what you learn, but the simple trust of the simple trust is based in simple love. You can't get the big trust. The big trust is the land and the state and all that shit. You can't go after the big trust until you get the small trust settled. And it doesn't have to be no unification for the big trust. You have to make the flesh trust the soul. You know what I'm saying? Because I done said this, that it is impossible for the flesh to tell the nerves. You know what I'm saying? The nerves is a gateway to what's seen and what isn't seen. That is the gateway. That is like the portal. That what makes it pop off. So your body isn't built for the flesh to dictate the soul. No. The inner being tells the outer being what to do. So get the trust within inside of you first, and that's what we should all be doing. So when the time is right, the light is so bright that it starts to spark. If you spark enough, nature will take its course, because nature makes a key element to make fire. What, air? Doesn't nature make trees and all that shit? All of the materials to make the fire, but I get it. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, Lord. And when, don't be mad when I say Lord. See, it's a duality, and you can break that Lord down, and the soul is Lord over the flesh, right? The flesh never tells the soul what to do, so doesn't and isn't the nurse created and manufactured and all that to tell the flesh what to do? So wouldn't your soul, the inner being, the supernatural inside of you be the Lord over the flesh, right? So everywhere I go, Lord, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, Lord, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, Lord, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I know I can't sing, y'all. I'm gonna try. I know I can't sing, y'all. I'm gonna try.
Can you feel it? Can you feel it? So rock can you feel it? So rock can you feel it? So rock can you feel it?
Why did they build the windows so low to the ground? And what an excellent question. Yes, why indeed did they build windows on ground level? For you see, the people we see in these photographs, sadly, did not build this architecture. And maybe some of them, at some point in their busy day-to-day life, ask the exact same question. We see it everywhere. Windows at ground level. Windows partially below ground level. First floor entrances raised from the ground level. Steps leading down to entrances below ground level. We can find this in almost every major city across our realm. In both old photographs and when we walk in the streets today. And what does it tell us? That a society with access to modest construction tools and horse and car constructed their infrastructure by first spending countless amounts of hours and energy clearing land with a depth of over 3 meters to begin their construction. Building basement floors is incredibly hard work. Since the 20th century, large powered excavation machines, such as backhoes and front-end loaders, have reduced the time and manpower needed to dig a basement dramatically, as compared to digging by hand with a spade. Perhaps you could say that our historical ancestors were just that dedicated to the architecture they built. And you could say that many of the sunken buildings we see are actually due to elevations and depressions in the natural landscape. The official narrative, which is always full of inconsistencies, perhaps would suffice if it was not for contemporary excavation. When we look at photographs such as this, it immediately dawns upon us that what we are seeing are windows and doors 2 to 3 meters below the ground surface. Why are there windows and doors underground? What is this that we see in our cities? Natural soil accumulation over time? Geologists have never been able to ascribe a consistent value to worldwide natural topsoil.
I worked on the grade crew. Grade crew is building roads, not the paving of the roads. That's the paving crew. Everything is, there's very little things that are built under. Everything is built up. I'm in Florida. A lot of the rural, basically Florida sits on at sea level. There's places in Florida that probably sit below sea level. So the rural land in Florida is cheaper because when it rains and stuff, it floods out. So a lot of the people who move out in the rural, they build up on it. They take dirt, sand, and all that, and they build a level foundation. Inspectors are needed to take density tests to make sure that the foundation will not sink and all that. So once again, that last scene, they was building up the roadway. You seen that the roads sit farther up, and the basements and all that. There's structures in these bigger artificial cities where Tesla was stationed at, where he was allowed to live at. The hotel had its own power plant, underground power plant that Tesla was known back then for blowing up whole towns. He would short circuit a power plant that ran communities. He would short circuit them, but he would never short circuit the power plant in the hotel that he lived at. And that hotel had passages underground that connected to other buildings in New York City. So now, even with that, I mean, I guess that's at the turn of the century, because Boston, shit, you think about it, they was building underground passages back then when Paul Revere and all that shit back then during the Revolutionary War periods and all that. Where was the John Deere's and all this shit, man? I'm saying, but that was probably already built. It was already in place. Something out of this world, some higher technology, intelligence, gods or something did this, but I get it. Where the slave boats and where the John Deere's, huh? Where the John Deere's, where is the blueprints, huh? Where the blueprints alone, where the blueprints? But the one that has the blueprint has that inside of their mental. Salute. What's up? Mind's eye. Peace to all the 10 that are out there. Let's get it.
Accumulation, because it is impossible. Some regions of our realm experience consistent topsoil accumulation, whereas other regions actually experience consistent erosion. Many historians and archaeologists have noted that many cities over the centuries have been destroyed through war, and natural phenomena such as earthquakes, volcanic ash, and flooding. Aren't these just the layers of previous civilizations? No, they are not. We see over and over again whole floors of buildings consistent with the architecture existing above the layer of ground. You see, what lies beneath is not the unfamiliar traces of previous generations, but of the same generation that built these structures. And once you really see this kind of sunken, buried infrastructure that exists in such prevalence across our world, you can never unsee it. We see that the foundations of old churches are actually the original first floors with consistent entrances and windows. We see mosaics unearthed. We see pillars, columns and arches that were originally much larger, and it was the layer of soil that reduced their size, as if they weren't big enough to begin with. And like with the 1964 earthquake in Nagata, Japan, we also find many so-called ancient structures that are leaning. As if at some point, the soil beneath these structures loosened and liquefied. We have the Sahersen Church Tower and Our Dear Lady at the Mountain Church Tower in Germany. The Tiger Hill Pagoda in China, the Leaning Tower of Neveyansk in Russia, the Leaning Temple of Huma in India, W.O.K.E in the Netherlands, the Tower of Zaragoza in Spain, and, of course, the Tower of Pisa. The official liars of the world try to justify the buried and tilting structures we see, filling our heads with stories of antiquity and ever-changing geology. But it becomes trickier for them when we turn our attention to America. If we are to believe their narrative, then all of the buildings we see in 19th century photographs of the burgeoning American cities are newly constructed. Why do we see famous structures, such as the Washington Capitol building, with consistent infrastructure that buries very deep into the ground? And again, the inconsistencies do not add up. Why would an underdeveloped people waste resources, energy, and time constructing the foundations of the Capitol building to be consistent with the column style we find above the surface. The foundations did not have to feature columns. Columns, we are told, are a stylistic choice, not a functional one. So why would they do this? In a nutshell, they wouldn't. We see images that suggest that the people of the 19th century were actually concerned with moving a lot of the vast amount of mud we see, leveling the ground and excavating existing structures. The consistency and prevalence of buried architecture across our realm indicate that whatever happened was a worldwide event, despite regional differences in natural topsoil accumulation and erosion. And there is no official narrative explanation that justifies the buried architecture we see. No explanation provided to justify the amount of mud we see in 19th century photographs of our cities. On the roads, mud piles from clearing, the roads uneven, the land ravaged, but the architecture grand, perfect, and intact. Applauded by literary scholars for his use of fog as an opening simile and metaphor to paint a portrait of London as a corrupted hub amidst burgeoning industrialization, many often overlook that Charles Dickens's 1852 novel Bleak House actually opens with a different image. London, Michaelmas term lately over, and the Lord Chancellor sitting in Lincoln's Inn Hall. Implacable November weather. As much mud in the streets as if the waters had but newly retired from the face of the earth. Liquefaction caused havoc across Christchurch and the Garter. But these were isolated earthquake events, and only portions of each city were affected. It is not possible for there to have been huge, simultaneous earthquakes around the world during a similar period. Or is it? Even Wikipedia tells us that liquefaction can occur naturally or artificially, from an earthquake or other sudden change in stress condition. Even if this was the case, we do not see the same structural damage to the buildings in the 19th century like we do in cases such as Christchurch and the Garter. Most of the buried architecture we see is intact. It is either sunken or the ground level has been raised at least 3 meters, sometimes in a uniform manner, and other times partially buried in rolling mud hills, as if there were huge landslides. The strange case of the buried architecture provides the following conclusions: that what lies beneath are not the remains of previous civilizations. More often than not, the buried structures are consistent with the architecture we see above ground. That the structures are much larger than originally suspected, and therefore they are even more of a construction impossibility for a Victorian generation of horse and car, and those existing before them. That natural topsoil accumulation and soil liquefaction are not satisfactory explanations for what we see here. Whatever took place had to be something much larger and widespread, such as a natural or artificial earthly cataclysm of sorts. As many of the photographs show, many citizens of the 1800s were responsible for moving much of the mud, leveling the ground, and excavating buildings, which suggests that whatever happened had happened very recently in their past. The complete absence of a reasonable mainstream justification for the buried architecture we see suggests that the controllers of our realm are deliberately trying to hide whatever happened. And what of the deserted cities we see in the earlier photographs? If these cities were truly empty, then we must ask why. We must also ask how all the people got there in the end. In the space of 30 or so years, we see a city go from barren to bustling. Interestingly, it is Charles Dickens and 19th century literature more generally that offers some clues. Two central themes run throughout 19th century Victorian literature: that of marriage and female chastity, and that of orphans and adoption. Many of the fictional characters we've come to love over the years are orphans. We have Oliver Twist and Pip from Great Expectations. We have little orphan Jane Eyre and Heathcliff from Wuthering Heights. We have Mowgli from The Jungle Book, Cosette from Les Miserables. We have Heidi, Rapunzel, Peter Pan, Snow White. We have Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn and Anne of Green Gables. And these books were of their time, as far as orphan prevalence goes. The only issue is that these novels romanticize the orphan as a figure dislocated from society by default, and therefore pave their life's path as one of unforeseen opportunity. This was not reality. The theme of marriage and chastity that we find in so many 19th century literary works, such as those by Jane Austen, the Brontes, George Eliot, Dickens, Thomas Hardy, Leo Tolstoy, Victor Hugo, and more, was nothing more than carefully disguised, well-written propaganda, with the sole purpose to solidify and justify a social value framework that would separate children from their mothers. Children born outside of marriage or wedlock were regarded as illegitimate, meaning they did not have a legal status. Illegitimate children was a serious stigma throughout the 19th century. The majority of employers would not hire women with an illegitimate child. Many unwed mothers with illegitimate children ended up without a home, in poor health, starving, exhausted. Their only place of refuge would be the workhouse, where they would carry out the most unpleasant duties. In some places, women with illegitimate children were singled out and had to wear a special uniform, which alerted everyone to their status as an unmarried mother or fallen woman. As a result, a vast amount of orphanages and foundling institutions were established. This is the London Foundling Hospital that was very active in the 19th century. Look at the size of it. Charles Dickens was obsessed with this place. Inspiration, they say. The official narrative tells us that an estimated 4,500 women handed over their children to this huge building. But this was just one institution. Wikipedia gives us a partial list of over 64 orphanages that were founded in the UK during the 19th century. The list is only partial. The peculiar case of the vast amount of parentless children in the 19th century is well documented by many researchers. And most of them agree it is almost impossible to establish figures that really do justice to just how many orphans there were during this period. Their footprint did not enter the record books. It formed in the mud and was then washed away. It wasn't just the UK. This was a worldwide phenomenon. New York City had 4 foundling asylums alone that processed thousands of children annually.
Yeah, let me find out. I got 15 right now. That's what I'm talking about. Live in the wreck. Shots out. Sister Krista Meadows. Shots out to you. Hey, hey, Hook knows this. Man, you probably didn't see my last when I did the coming soon, that PDL type thing. Mama Jula, peace. Ricky Young, peace. Shots out going up. Krista Meadows, House of Nathan, Sister Armor, Mind's Eye. Indigenous, shouts out to you. Coppertone TV, shouts out to you. Net Connect, shouts out to you. Greedy Vegan, shouts out to you. So I Wake Up Unafraid, shouts out to you. Ooh. Brother Only Wise, man, I'm bad with words, but hey, long time. Hey, this is another one of my day ones, brother. I hope that whatever I say some of the times don't get on your nerve all of the time. Shouts out to you, man. I ain't seen you in a while. Shouts out to you, man. Appreciate you. Shouts out to you. I'm going to put Marbine. I fucked that up. Shouts out to you. Real Live TV. Young in here, man. Shouts out to you, man. One love. Freestyle Friday. Freestyle Friday. Coming Friday, man. Open up the trap early, man. I hope you be there. I know you an hour behind. You an hour behind. You in the Midwest, the Michigan area, right? So hope you be open early Friday. Damn, try to be open early Fridays. Damn, I might name that bitch that. Be different. Who else? So it's just Willie Hare, y'all. That's what I'm saying. So I know you going all natural one time. That's for you. One more. Just Willie Hare. Yeah. Go against B anti-Crown Act. You know what I'm saying? Shouts out to you. Appreciate that. Let's get it. Who else? And the first toker is... Who was the first toker? It was, another day one. J My. Everything is everything. Let me find out. Cheers to you for the first toker of the Waking and Baking ministries, because this is churches, if you catch my drift. This is churches, you know what I'm saying? And let me get back to it. And I'm giving overall inspiration and shots out for the I Question Everything. Hey, my brother, hey, That's a powerful brother, man. And this is in inspiration of him. I seen this when I was scouting, strolling through the YouTube streets, and I seen him playing this on his platforms. Shots out to you with what you have going on with your True TV. True TrueTube. And I had a subscription. I was subscribed under a different account a couple years ago. I'm gonna get back to it, and that's the surge. See, it's platforms out there. We have to make it our business to make it do what it do, and coming soon, man, because I got a lot of content I done in the past that those are content for my unborn grandchildren in the future. So, shouts out to you. Mama Chula, peace and light. Thank you. I'm gonna get back to it. I'm at the 2 hour. It don't matter, y'all. Let's get it.
By the beginning of the 20th century, Italy was reporting 32,000 children per year. Spain and Portugal were reporting 15,000 annual foundlings.
Let me cover my ass with style. I'll be right back.
Before 1860, 374,000 recorded infants were processed by the asylums in Milan, Naples, and Florence alone. Historian David L. Ransell states that Moscow was receiving between 16 and 18,000 infants annually by the 1880s, and sending over 10,000 of these each year to outlying villages for care. In 1882, there were all told 41,720 foundlings from the Moscow home, living with 32,000 foster families, scattered throughout 4,418 villages. A dozen villages had over 90 fosterings each. One thing
Aren't these the Slavs? Isn't this area in the Caucasus Mountain area? Is it Russia? I'm looking at my I could do it. Yeah, hold up. Let me. Where I gotta go? Hold up. What is B under? Device. Okay. Change the device. Will it show the screen? It's a little dark. Go to map. So big. Hey, Let me make sure you can hear me. Microphone check, check. Yeah, yeah. Just so happy. Yeah. And I'm bored with a goddamn axe. Just so happy. There's Russia right here, bitch. Russia right here. This is my map that I had when I started out. And I just put this bitch up a couple days ago. But all this mysterious Moscow is right here. Moscow right here, but all of the mysteriousness of these vacant cities and all of that, all of the Slavs, all of this come from this area. The Caucasus Mountains covers a vast from all that, but I'm saying, and from what I'm hearing, like the others, those are seconds. Those are the descendants of the seconds that caused havoc here in America. These, this ain't this one to go get down, but I'm just saying, it's some mysterious shit. I'm just saying. Let's get it.
That is often overlooked is that there were a series of laws passed in the 1800s, making it almost impossible for unwed mothers to keep their babies. The 18
In vegan homeboy on one of his builds, he on his laptop showed us some areas in the Caucasus Mountain that had shit shaved out, and then I'm like, but I'm keeping it to myself. I'm like, man, that's some telepathic shit or something higher than something there, because in the mountain area, bitch, where is the machinery? Huh? Where the machinery? Where the machinery, man? Where the haul trucks that's gonna haul this shit up out of here? So it's some supernatural shit that made that shit happen. That just to make that shit disappear and all that shit. Yeah. It's some shit in the Caucasus Mountains that shaved out. Who did that? Whether shit to sharpen the handmade tools, just alone. I'm like, man, it'll take motherfuckers. You're gonna run out of. Now, here's one aspect of wherever the missing mankind, you know, it's a big gap. Is like they don't know what happened in between the Neanderthal and the troglodytes and the Cro-Mag and the Amazon man and Bigfoot. It's gaps in between how these motherfuckers were made, but I got some shit that's saying that they was working their ass. Yeah, don't it make sense that some fallen angel type shit came and could not go against the universal laws, and they started from the bottom to the top, huh? I get it. If I pull that out, man, y'all will want to call the YouTube 5150 Baker Act Committee and go on to slide me up off this bitch. They'll try to, they'll Farrakhan me. No. And this shit ain't coming from no motherfucking, no lodges or no, I ain't have to walk through nothing, man. I came through the back door. See, I went through the trash. See, just like a storefront, just like anything. Man, I was scrambling through the trash. I was in the back of the store of knowledge, just trying. I'm going through trash. See, I don't want to go through the front door. See, the front door, no. I'm rogue. I'm gonna be a rogue. You know what I mean? I'm roguely, righteously going through this trash, and I'm coming up with my own imagination of my nation, of my government, my mental. Let me govern my mental. Let me be the government. Govern. Don't put no governor on my mental. So me going through the trash, I did not have to. And shouts out to a few of them that went through the front door. They like, shit, y'all got it. Y'all know different things that it took us 25, 30 years for me to come up and yeah, man, I'm using my imagination, man. And then it's rubbing off in this household that where through talks my better half, hopefully not my future former ex-wife, hitting some plays on her own. I'm like, hey, that's what I'm talking about. And I just lobbed something up, so hopefully I'll let coming soon for real. Hey, they got something going, brewing. I get it. For them 11 that can stomach the and the imagine. Cheers to you. Cheers to you. And round of applause. Oh shit! Look who just stepped in. Mastermind. Hey, the mastermind. Hail up, king of. Hey man, shots out that. Shit, you gave me the other week. Saying that whatever me and Huey P. Nuisance got going on. Thank you for seeing something in me. Hey, but I'm always a work in progress, but I'm just trying to put the work in, you know what I'm saying, them great works to show myself approved. I don't know nothing, but follow me. Follow me. Follow me. Just trying to put in enough great works. The works that individually that'll make us all great. I'm just trying to put in my great works so when the time right, I'm trusted enough that I study to show myself approved, because the information that a lot of these brothers that with that have, they just looking for that trust. And because I get it. The power, the information, all of that knowledge and all of that, it's power, but heavy is the head that wears the crown. But you can get it, but what you gonna do with it? This time, what we're going through, even by the flesh, by the worldly, by what's going on in the world and break the world, the plantation down. What's going on here in the Western Hemisphere, especially in North America, the way that the government is doing what they doing. Everybody's literally getting what their heart desires. So hopefully your heart is desired on the right things. The things that are built up, the universal currency, and be anti-world. Don't desire the things of the world. Desire the things of the universe. Doesn't the universe control this planet, this plane? Think about it. Run off of and strive at all times to reach your needs. And don't worry about your wants. Everybody, the duality, everything, everybody's getting everything what they heart desires. So to many, to the 85%ers, to the workforce, to the blood, sweat, and tears, to the economy, by the flesh, everybody's getting what their heart desires. But for the 5%ers, label this up to the same numbers of the 144,000. It ain't many, so call these the true and righteous 5%ers, that out of the 15% that's left out of the 85, the 10 no, but they choose to take the power and do the devilish things, the worldly things with the power. But the 5% are the misfits of righteousness. That's us. I hope that's you. That give me my wants. Sorry, I fucked up. Give me my needs over my wants. As long as my needs are taken care of, my wants should and will turn to universal wants, that it is always better to give than receive. As long as I put in the great works, that will keep me satisfied and keep me aligned with the universe. So what it is said in the good book, the Bible, the book of commerce, that do not get out aligned with what the universe has, what they say blessing, but what the universe has destined for you. You could get out of a line by 1 inch and miss that. Thank you. Let's get it.
33, Poor Law Reformation introduced bastardy clauses that shifted the entire responsibility for the illegitimate child onto the mother. Social stigma meant that she would not be able to provide care for her child and would be forced to hand them over to the authorities, or worse. Advertisements for adoption or nurse care became popular in newspapers. And, as many scholars have pointed out, these were a front for what was termed baby farmers, or paid murder. As Dorothy L. Haller states, the adverts may have been misleading to the general public, but read like a coded message to unwed mothers. No references are asked for, and none are offered. The sum of 15 shillings a week to keep an infant or a sickly child was inadequate, and a sickly child and an infant under 2 months were the least likely to survive and the cheapest to bury. Infants were taken, no questions asked, and it was understood that for £12, no questions were expected to be asked. The transaction between the mother and the baby farmer usually took place in a public place, on public transportation, or through a second party. No personal information was exchanged. The money was paid, and the transaction was complete. The mother knew she would never see her infant alive again. Most children, however, were not murdered, but were dropped off at the doorsteps of orphanages or the workhouse. All children taken into these institutions were given entirely new identities. They were provided for with shelter, food, and clothing temporarily, and then sent off to workhouses or another location. Photographs in the 19th century were scarce, but towards the end of the century, we see more photographs, and the last continent to experience such mass exodus of orphans was the United States. And it is here that we see evidence of the orphan trains. The first group of these orphans arrived in Michigan in 1854, and from that moment on, the movement shipped hundreds of thousands of children across the states until it ended in 1929. Officially, there were over 97 institutions involved in orphans and orphan trains in the 19th century. And again, this was not just the United States. Annie McPherson will go down in history as a woman who scammed more than 100,000 foundlings and shipped them from the United Kingdom to Canada, New Zealand, and South Africa, and even to the outer edges of the earth in Australia, so that they could be sold into child labor. Why do we see so many photographs of orphans in workhouses? Why are they working with machinery created for adult use? Were there not enough adults during this time to carry out this work? And then there is the strange case of the burgeoning American amusement parks at the turn of the 20th century. In addition to rides and exhibits, many of these parks featured an unusual attraction: infantoriums. Visitors of these parks could stroll around with ice cream and swing by these stations, a visit equivalent to that of a fully functional neonatal intensive care unit, complete with incubators filled with sleeping, premature babies. History has been kind to Martin Cooney. Touted as a hero, Cooney was the German mind behind the incubators. His first encounter with premature babies, we are told, was at the 1896 World's Fair. He knew immediately that the exhibition would save babies' lives. The technology to keep premature
Should I? Okay. Since it's on that, let me try to get a better one before I go in.
babies alive.
Oh, that's gonna do it right there. Okay. Where my book? Fuck. Would it be in here? Lord help me. Would one be in here? Could I cheat? Would it be in the law? Would it be in the layman? You know they have a layman's family legal guide. It may be in here too. Family legal guide, a complete encyclopedia of law for the layman. It might be in here. Breach, born. That's a little gruesome. Nah, it's in Bond. I mean, they got Bond. Born. No, hold up. Fuck, it's here. Oh, here it go, right here. There go you raggedy. Okay, born. Now give me. I just seen something about child, but that's where all the child labor laws and shit come from. But born, I'm in my Black's Laws Dictionary, volume 6, edition 6. Whoa, shit. Okay, stay there. I might would take y'all out. All right. Oh, that bitch done. Okay, Black's Laws. Act of being delivered or expelled from mother's body, whether or not placenta has been separated or cord cut. Expelled. That is the premature, the preemies. So they was like at some World Fair type shit. Like look at the preemies, and then the doctor that invented this type of type shit was holding the little premature babies just like little dogs and shit, man. But now this is the definition, the legal definition of born alive refers to product. What the fuck? Product. No, for real. Product. You ain't gonna believe it. King, I know you ain't gonna be able to, but I'm reading out this regular ass. Just try to look. Just product being refers to product. Just so the stork. This where all this shit come from. The stork just drop after they stab. Yes, for 6 to 7 decades, everybody who went in the mysterious back room, they pricked the feet, and your blood is on a database. See, they had a database way back then, and they know what type, where you come from and all. They know your blood type and all. My blood type is blood type O. Go find out your type of blood. It's 4 types of blood, and you break that down, and it's in the 16th, and it's just like it is dope of blood. It is like the same 8th, 16th, and all that. It's rareness. It's some rare blood out there. But going back to this, refers to product of conception after complete expulsion or extraction. Extraction, you know that C-section shit. They extract. They gonna cut you open and extract that. Let me get that. But the first expulsion when the baby come out the life hole. So you know those comedian type gags when the baby just pop up out the love hole. When the baby poof, expulsion, or the expulsion mean when the warp pop out, when the baby, when Jesus, when Jesus. See, Jesus didn't demonstrate all that. Son had to spark that. But when Jesus came out of the love hole, did the 3 wise men catch? Was the 3 wise men, Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, and Michael Irvin? They had hands. Was they out like prime time? Was it some cornerbacking? After that, after Jesus came up out of Mary, some was deep. So there was no line. There was no defensive line. There was, and follow me, because if it was expulsion, if it was anything, if the act of being delivered or expelled from mother's body, whether or not that was violent. So imagine now this coming to me, everybody that was in that little the ward, that was a ward, that was a delivery room. So Ray Lewis was in there. He was a linebacker, number 52 from Lakeland, Florida, from Polk County, where I reside. Ray Lewis was on the scene saying, I get him, I catch him, because it was a linebacker. So the quarterbacks, it was prime time, was in the ward. Prime time and somebody else, but it was three. So the three wise men was ready to catch Jesus as he came out the air. And just imagine. Come on. Imagine that Ray Lewis and Primetime was fighting over Jesus, because of being born alive refers to product of conception after complete expulsion or extraction from mother, irrespectively of the duration of the pregnancy. God damn. Which breathes or shows any other evidence of life, such as beating of the heart, pulsation of the umbilical cord, or definite movement of voluntary muscles. I shit you not. I'm still reading of Born Alive. Whether or not the umbilical cord has been cut or the placenta is attached. And I ain't even finished, man. This is the last sentence, but this one is the most disrespectful to man ever. Each product of such birth is considered live born and fully recognized as a human person. And I have the person in parentheses, corporation. This is part of a case law that says main review, like stated. There's some legal work behind this. You could go search this on public record, and it says viable child. They made the White Slave Act to protect white kids and the white Karen. Child labor laws was to protect the Caucasian kids, Caucasian, Asian, Caucasus Mountain area, Serbs, Sobs, slaves, Slavs. First, this whole thing, you see, soul man in here, if you catch my drift. I get it. Let's get it.
It was expensive, and he knew the public would pay to see the babies in incubators. He would charge an entrance fee at the amusement parks to generate funds to help these babies live. Nurses tended to the babies as an enraptured public looked on. Like any other amusement, the premature baby exhibits included carnival barkers who tried to lure the public to come and see the babies. I don't know about you, but I find something very off about these incubators. Advertised as featuring living babies, a lot of the fairs where C.O.E.E showed his babies also featured eugenics exhibitions. Eugenics is a field of corrupted pseudoscience that endorses selective breeding to improve the genetic quality of the human population. Eugenics was inspired by Darwinism and was a driving ideology that fueled the Nazis. Why are people paying to see living babies, as if they had never seen a living infant before? Did people of the time not have their own babies? And where are these infants' parents? How did they have the technology in the 19th century to keep premature babies alive in such a way? Or is something off, once again, with the official narrative? There were 80,000 premature babies who were treated in these amusement park incubators. 80,000. The hundreds of thousands of orphans in the 19th century are just barely believable. Were women really that carefree? Did America even have the population numbers to justify 80,000 premature babies? We are not talking orphans here, but infants born prematurely. The narrative is not convincing or realistically fathomable. Where did these babies come from? More troubling is C.O.E.E's background. As many historians have pointed out, he had no medical degree or training. His story is a very similar one of unconvincing philanthropy that we find surrounding some of our contemporary figures today that also do not have medical degrees. And then there is Marie Dressler, a Canadian silent film and Depression-era movie star. She adopted one of these incubator babies. Celebrities and adoption. The official narrative conveniently leaves this out of her story and tells us that she may have had a daughter who died as a small child. But the photographs suggest otherwise. Did she adopt her incubator baby at one of these fairs? Were the fairs a front for illicit adoption of premature babies? Even if they were premature, did that mean they had no parents? Who owned and was responsible for these parks? And what happened to the babies once they grew and left the incubators? If something feels eerily wrong about the entire narrative,
This just came to my recollection. I ain't saying this is, but wasn't Noble W.O.K.E a World's Fair type performer, whatever? Just saying, wouldn't I don't know, but I'm saying it is documented there are certain Moors that give confirmation about nobleness, Noble W.O.K.E being a World's Fair performer.
surrounding these parks and orphans, it's because we are not being told the truth. Why were there hundreds of thousands of parentless children in the 19th century? Where did they come from? They were relocated all over the world. Europe, America, Russia, Australia, Canada. Why? Especially when most still had a living parent. If pregnancy out of wedlock was such a social stigma that resulted in such trauma,
wouldn't Harriet Tubman and this mystery would have bumped heads somehow with this, right? Wouldn't if it was orphan trains running, they had orphan trains and the alleged Underground Railroad type shit. So wouldn't Harriet and some of these rub shoulders on the same train tracks type shit? What, I don't know, but I get it. This effect, I know it may piss y'all off, but this is the ponder room, right? Shouldn't Harriet Tubman or wouldn't they use the same rails and rail cars? Subbing them out, the Slavs, because that orphan train was full of Caucasian babies. I ain't seen not nan nigga on there. I wasn't gonna say it, but for this we got to, because we got to make this shit evidently seen and clear that not a nigga was on that train, sir. Not a Chicken George. Who was the Chicken George of the orphan train? So there was a Chicken George. So was there the Chicken George narrative that they gave us, was that Sylvester Stallone type individual as Chicken George? Hey, give me back that chicken, or here, you want some chicken? Hey, y'all. I just got to ponder. I'm bringing it back to, was Harriet Tubman Chicken George, or shouldn't they rub shoulders? Was Harriet Tubman white? Was Harriet Tubman literally from Russia or something? Because they should have rubbed shoulders. Maybe Harriet Tubman and them contracted out after they was finished. Maybe they contracted this to the orphanhood and the orphan train. Maybe it's blueprints. Maybe there's DNA evidence. Hell, maybe there's life juice on these orphan trains that maybe we could run a black light and possibly find some DNA evidence of Harriet Tubman in her off time, getting off, because we all human. I know, I didn't mean to go, hey, hold up. Let me put this out just in case there may be some descendants of Harriet Tubman that may be at Farrakhan's call contracted. They have been contracted already to go and do that. So let me protect my ass while I can before Harriet Tubman or the descendants of the famous minister Tom Cruise, Popo, Medea, Tyler Perry may do this. So I got to protect myself. Yes, I am back. I have ran over time, but hey, I'm doing this for y'all. So cheers to you. Yes. Back in the place to be. This is DJ, VJ, content creator, Coppertone, trying to find content, but let me get back to it. This is a documentary, TV show, YouTube special, I don't know, but this is the lost history of flat earth. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. I appreciate that. Let's get it.
Why would so many people put themselves in that position in the first place? Did the government really care about social morality enough to pass laws? and all the effort to build and maintain orphanages and orphan relocation networks? Would this not burden governmental finances and administration systems? It certainly would have. But you see, there was a greater purpose behind the government's worldwide agenda: repopulation. The social narrative of chastity was nothing more than propaganda and justification for stealing children. The reason we see empty cities in the early 19th century is because they were in fact empty, void of population. And the reason they are bustling 30 years later is because orphans were shipped into these cities to repopulate them. You see, in the early 19th century, there was a worldwide reset of sorts through depopulation and then repopulation. The people we see in these photographs did not build this architecture. They inherited it, along with a lot of mud. Not only did they inherit it without a clue as to what it actually was and who it belonged to, but they were unknowingly complicit in repurposing pretty much all of these structures. I know, none of this is making much sense at the minute. You are probably wondering why on earth these cities were empty and full of mud. What happened that meant governments needed to repopulate the earth? And I know what you're thinking. This is all very intriguing, but what does this have to do with flat earth? You want to know more about the firmament, the sun and moon, and our stationary plane. Do not worry. Everything will become clearer as we continue our journey. The prevalent evidence of buried infrastructure, coupled with deserted cities and a burgeoning industry of orphans, is just a start. These are all necessary clues, hinting at some kind of cataclysm, but the real story hasn't truly begun yet. The stage had to be set first, and now it is ready. And even if you cannot see it yet, I know you feel it, viewer. The deserted cities, the buried architecture, and orphans all signal a looming darkness. There is a great black cloud in front of us, and I won't lie, we are heading right into the heart of it. And like I said before, we do not have much time. Come on,
the algorithm up.
It's time for me to honor my promise
if you haven't
and take
already,
you back
share,
to the
subscribe.
future.
Fuck the algorithm up. We are the algorithm. Peace.
Water,
Let's get it.
an inorganic, transparent, and odorless chemical substance that covers 70% of the known Earth's surface. It is the driving life force behind the carbon-based organisms that flourish on our Earth. It borders and separates our lands and collects and solidifies at the inner and outer regions of our flat, stationary realm. God should have sent a message to the inhabitants of Earth and been precise and told them to watch the water, to meditate on its function and natural laws, because in their time, a great deception would be cast over them, like a cold shadow of an unknown, nefarious king. And maybe God did send this message in the form of a flood, but its truth was mythologized and buried, and the lie propagated in spite of it. Resting water does not curve and convex. The natural laws of a resting body of water insist that it takes the exact shape of the container it fills, and always finds and maintains a flat level. Resting water always rests flat. And watching the water when we sit at vantage points, when journeying above in planes, and before we take a sip from our drink, we must remember to never forget this law.
The water aspect, back to construction again. You dig so deep in utilities that you hit a water table, and water finds the least resistance. That's why when water flows and gets to whatever point it needs to get to, it will do a lot of damage. Water finds the least resistance. And what sits in all levels, all man-made handheld levels, is water. Water finds the most levelless base, and then it forms around that. That's why they use water inside of levels. The straighter the little air bubble inside, the more level whatever you're trying to do is. That's why all lands could sink underwater at any given time. Earlier in this video, they were showing like the damp. The earth could get so damp, the land, to where it just like clay, it turns to quicksand. All of this is under the ground. There's fire, there's lava comes from under the ground. There's heat, there's water under the ground. The water springs, like what the spring water and all that. Earlier in this, they were showing where it was finessed, like perfectly designed luxury water wells.
Most of us instinctively understand the laws of water, and yet many continue their day-to-day willfully participating in the nonsensical, heliocentric hoax. But for us that know that our Earth is not a spinning planet in an infinite vacuum of space, the ones that have studied the sun diligently and realize that it is the sun that is moving and not the Earth, the ones that have plotted the illogical routes of flight paths on a globe model and concluded that the model is incorrect, the ones that know that the laws of density govern the rise and fall of objects and have studied vanishing points, the ones that have forsaken conventional telescopic lenses, pondered rainbows, sundogs, and the stars above us know that we reside within a dome firmament and there exists water above us. And the ones that understand that our entire enclosed Earth system is governed by electromagnetism, frequency, and vibration that emanates from a central magnetic North Pole. We are the ones that scratch our heads and wonder how on earth we got in this heliocentric mess in the first place. And if meditating on the stars in the water beyond our firmament long enough, and on the electromagnetism, frequencies and vibrations that make them twinkle through so many shades of vibrant colors and geometric patterns, one might perhaps, just perhaps, ask, is there something more to electromagnetism? Something that has been missed or overlooked? Something untold or hidden? Electromagnetism is a fundamental force of Earth. The electromagnetic field takes the form of a torus in which all electromagnetism frequency and vibration flows. A toroid is a revolving surface that takes the shape of a donut. Toroidal inductors and transformers are central to generating electric energy. There are many ways in which electromagnetism can be produced. We've looked at some before. We know that a magnetic field can produce electricity, and that electricity can produce a magnetic field. It works both ways. Magnetism and electricity are inextricable. It is a dance of polarity. Electric charges either repel or attract each other. Magnetic poles attract or repel one another.
Ron Dudley Smith is the warden of the Roll Right Trust. By day, he's a plumber. But in his spare time, he's something far more mystical.
Hello, Ron.
Hiya.
You must be Ron the Dowser, I can tell.
Certainly am. Pleased to meet you.
Ron thinks he knows why the stones were built here. Natural energy lines.
Running around the globe, everywhere, are energies that pulsate through the earth. This particular place is on, we call it a power spot, where energies seem to accumulate, come into like a hub, and then flow off into other places.
So is this the same what they call ley lines? Is that the
The
same
ley
thing?
lines and ley energy all come into it. We've got an energy line running through here that starts in the Isle of Wight, goes through Chichester Cathedral,
Yeah,
goes through the Effingham White Horse,
right.
comes through here.
I like to think I'm open-minded, but an ancient energy superhighway feels a bit of a stretch.
So you're standing here, I know you're concentrating on talking to me, but are you feeling the energy?
Not at the moment, because it's
No.
too bloody cold.
Yeah.
Around these stones here is a band of energy. Would you like to try and find this?
Yes, but I doubt I'm going to be as good as you are.
Well, I don't suppose you will be, because I've been doing this for donkey's years.
All right.
So take two of those rods.
Yes, okay.
With these two metal rods, using the medieval technique of dowsing, Ron tells me I should be able to detect the spiritual powers running around the stones.
I'm throwing you in at the deep end here. You've
Yeah.
never done this before. So,
No.
so just walk forward, tune into this energy that's coming from the stones, and ask your rods. You said, and there we go.
Yeah.
Now, are you doing that, or has that done it by itself?
It's done it by itself.
There we are. Now that that's done, now just walk out slowly now, just to show that something is happening through your rods or through you. Because
Yeah,
this
no,
is
it's
happening through you.
This is extraordinary. I've
Again,
discovered
walk
a
in.
new power that I didn't know I had. Is it a
Well,
power or
we-
is it a sensitivity?
As far as I'm concerned, 80% of population can do this if they're
Yeah.
interested.
Oh, and there's me thinking I'm special.
Now walk back out and watch them open up. As soon as you, so the energy is there.
Yes.
There it is there.
Yeah. Because I brought up as a Presbyterian, I think this could be the work of the devil. I'm not sure.
Well, that's what lots of people believe.
Yeah. So which way is the energy flowing today? It's so spooky. that I don't know what to make of this.
Ron believes ancient Britons placed the stones here so they could tap into this invisible energy source, presumably making them feel more, well, energetic.
Gosh, what am I in touch with now?
Nothing. You're in touch with nature. This is natural. It happens all the time. But
It's
this,
not natural to stand in the freezing cold with rods like this.
lots of people who come here who don't understand the energies and they are sensitive come into the center of this. They're overcome with emotion because of the energies they're picking up.
Yeah,
And you just have to gently take them out,
right.
give them a loving hug, even if it's a mental one,
Yeah.
and just calm them down and say, now let's just go in and let's just concentrate.
Auckland, New Zealand, 1997. Retired military and commercial airline pilot Bruce Cathy publishes his book, The Energy Grid. In it, he details his experience observing UFOs during his time working for the New Zealand military. He noted that these crafts were always following straight lines. After mapping them, he discovered that they followed a distinctive grid pattern. Additionally, while flying over some of these zones, he also noticed that various structures were actively being built along the paths.
Bruce Cathy maintained that the American military, starting in World War II, had also figured out this special grid that surrounds the entire planet, and that the military was using certain spots on the Earth to build military bases and other structures.
Cathy suggested that the extraterrestrial craft may have been drawing power off the grid, and that after World War II and the Roswell incident, military personnel around the world had become aware of this UFO connection.
So here we have an ancient grid structure, probably built by extraterrestrials, possibly to power their craft, that's now being reconstructed today by the military.
Could it be that ancient structures throughout the world were designed to function together as part of a massive energy grid? And did the architects intentionally leave behind information for us to find once we had the technological knowledge to recognize this system? But why? What were the alien architects trying to tell us?
Extraterrestrials knew that at some point in our evolution, an technologically advanced society would stumble across all of these ancient sites and see their correlation, thus forcing us to take into consideration that some type of extraterrestrials showed our ancestors where to build these things, not for them, but for us.
The grid itself may in fact be a source of unconventional energy that we are not necessarily utilizing with our technology now. An advanced intelligent race wanted to leave something behind for us to discover that would give us the clues to a greater level of science than we now understand.
It could be that this master architect sought not only to influence the Earth, but also to connect the Earth to something greater or beyond our imagination. Perhaps this grid even extends out into the stars, and the world grid of the Earth connects with the grid of other planets as well, and then integrates the Earth into a huge colony, if you will, or integrated circuit throughout the cosmos.
Nothing happened. I was just tired a little bit of the ley line aspect into the unknown of this. That's all. Just certain pieces I use to try to tie in things. That's all. I ain't hitting you with the whole total, just the power aspect, just the technology aspect. Back to this though. Nah. See? Is it showing? Damn, shut down just when speak my shit. What? Oh, it ain't playing? Nah, if it's just show it. Hold up.
For every North Pole, there is a corresponding South Pole. An electric current passing inside a wire creates a corresponding magnetic field outside of the wire. And an electric current is created in a loop of wire when it is moved toward or away from a magnetic field. Horseshoe magnets are powerful permanent magnets. Due to their shape, in which both magnetic poles